Welcome to the Silver Mature WomanPreneur Podcast, a podcast for and by women over 50, providing faith-building strategies for female entrepreneurs looking to achieve higher levels of productivity, capacity, and growth, where we strive to focus on God's agenda while building our businesses to serve our community with excellence. Welcome to the podcast. Pleasure of having Maggie Mills on the show. We actually met about 5 years ago in Charleston, South Carolina, while networking at an event, and we just instantly connected. We just kept talking, and even to the point where, if I remember correctly, it was almost interrupting the speaker. Because I kept asking you questions, and we were just kind of talking back and forth, but it was just an instant connection. And so I am so excited to have Maggie on the show, and we get an opportunity to reconnect. And so by way of introduction, Maggie is a ghostwriter, an author, and a coach, and she has spent decades of her long career happily behind the scenes, making other people look good in print and online. Now, Maggie, I didn't want that to sound like you were old because I said you spent decades. But Maggie, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much for having me on your show. And it's a delight to talk with you again. And, you brought up that event where we met each other. And I'm thinking back to that going, we're the kind of people that we wouldn't have been allowed to sit next to each other in school, would we?
I know. Because we were just talking. And, the teacher would have said, well, actually, the teacher probably would have put us out of the room and sent us to the principal's office, right?
I spent a lot of time in my education in the coat room.
Oh, my
goodness. I liked it in there. It was warm.
Well, Maggie, I got to tell you, I've had several authors on the show, but I've never had a ghostwriter on the show, and this is pretty cool. So I can't wait to dive in about what do ghostwriters do? I mean, I actually know one other person that is a ghostwriter. I haven't had her on the show or anything, but what does a ghostwriter do? I mean, I know a little bit about it, but perhaps you can kind of enlighten us.
Well, I'm very fortunate because being a ghostwriter is absolute fun. I enjoy this. I joke around about it a lot. I tell people I'm probably the most published author you have never heard of. Mm-hmm. And I like it that way. And basically, I collaborate with people who have something to write, and they would just like a little collaboration to help them get through the writing process. And I help people write their books and anything with the written word. I'm writing speeches and scripts and website content and all of that. But the ghostwriting mostly refers to the books I help people get published. And it's an absolute fun job because I meet all types of people from all over the world. They all have a fascinating story to tell, and I get to be them for a few months. And I learn so much and come to understand other people's experiences through this process. So I feel like it's a gift to me to be able to do this.
Definitely a gift. I bet you're in high demand.
Well, I have to say that during the pandemic, a lot of people decided it was time to write their book. So, yes, business has been good.
Well, that's awesome because, as you know, a lot of people who have been in other industries, have, had to kind of pivot their businesses and things like that. So, Go ahead. Were you going to say something to that?
Take a breath. Yes, I was going to say yes. I feel so fortunate because I was watching other people have such difficulties with their businesses, facing difficulties on the business front as well as the personal front, dealing with shutdowns and the general atmosphere over the last year or so. And so my business really, really shifted because when you and I met, I was mostly marketing, and I've always used writing in the marketing. And as soon as the pandemic started and we had the shutdown, my business plummeted like so many others. But I consider myself very fortunate that this was a portion of what I was already doing, and it blossomed. And once it did, I felt like this is where I've really belonged my whole life. And I have not looked back. So I look at it as a blessing, and I'm so fortunate to have had this happen to me and that I can serve others in this way.
Yeah, I mean, I remember because I went to an event with you, and I remember we were doing, because this was after we
solopreneurs. We went to an event together, helping people, figure out, do I really want to start a business? What do I need to know before considering a business? That was a fun event. I enjoyed that. And thank you for going along with me. I appreciated having you there as my cheering section.
Well, I still have those pictures on my phone that we took together, so it's always a nice reminder. Yeah, it's always a nice reminder. It's definitely, people have had to pivot and things like that. And, for you, I know marketing, everybody needs marketing. So fortunately for you, you had the experience, of marketing and, bringing people's books and projects to life, through ghostwriting. I mean, that's like a happy little marriage, isn't it?
It is. It works out very well because, anyone writing a book, the goal is to actually sell it one day. And so with the marketing background, I can keep that in mind as we're working on their book together and encourage them to start promoting their book even before we finish writing it. You start promoting that book. And as we're writing the book together, we can add things to the content of that book that will help drive their business, because a lot of books, and we're going to be talking about that in a little bit, I know. A lot of books are written by business people to help promote them. And let's say if someone's interested in developing some speaking opportunities through this book, well, chances are they've already spoken some places before the book gets published. And we'll be sure to talk about those in the book so that we're planting ideas with the readers. Oh, this person is a speaker, and I really like this topic, and let me look in the back of the book about how to reach out to them because maybe they can speak to my group or come to my program. And anywhere where they're an authority in their field, we make sure that we're mentioning certain things that will help drive business to them while we're working on their book, to keep planting those little ideas, because in marketing and as an author yourself that to get people to take action, you need to tell them at least 5 times what you'd like them to do.
Yeah, that is so true, so true. Sometimes I forget, though. I think, hopefully they've seen it. But I do. Thank you for the reminder. Is basically what I'm saying. But I think this is a great kind of a segue into what you do to help your clients. What are some of the ways in which a book develops alternate revenue streams?
Well, this is the fun part. It's all the fun part. What am I saying? This is another fun part. Because so many people, they think, well, I'm writing a book and I'm going to put it up on Amazon, and that's where my money's going to come from. And you will generate revenue that way from the actual sale of the book. But that is actually one of the minor ways that your book can generate money for your business. We mentioned a few minutes ago about speaking opportunities. Keynote speakers get paid, and when you have a book out there, you can take it with you to your event. It's easier to get booked for these speaking events when you're in correspondence with people who book. You can say, well, I've already written something, and so they're going to say, oh, well, they must be an expert in their field. They have a book. And then you can also sell that book at your speaking event. So in addition to that, a lot of people, depending on the type of book they're writing, if it's instructional, they can create a workbook to go along with that. And it can be created in an online downloadable form or print on demand, so that people who are going through your what you've written, your larger book, can go along with that and do exercises at the end of each chapter. For instance, one of my clients who's writing a fiction book, she's writing a workbook alongside of it as she goes through each chapters, so that people who are in book clubs can buy her book and also the workbook. And at the end of the chapter, they can have these discussion points for their group. Like, there was something in there about who was your first love, and questions about, have you had the same best friend since childhood, and all these talking points. So workbooks go along with that. Once you have a book out, you can create seminars based on that. Excuse me. And you can lead a seminar, whether as an individual or be a guest with a number of presenters, for instance, in weekend retreats, when there's one topic and they have several speakers come and address that topic. Of course, there's podcasts like what you and I are doing. People can use their book as the basis for their coaching practice. You can start a mastermind group. You can create an online class with pre-recorded videos. There's the audio book. You can take portions of your book and create 1 or 2 page how-to guides. Again, downloadable PDFs. You can sell those. You can also use those PDFs to linked to a landing page for your website. You can use those to get people to come and sign up for, here's this free guide to flower arranging. And then when they sign up for it, you get their email, can add them to your list, and then market to them later. You can also use it sort of as a value add. I have a free writer's checklist I give away to people that they can use, whether you're writing your own book or not. We can always use a few tips. So those are just a few ways that writing a book can add more revenue streams to what you're already doing.
Oh, I love that. I love those. I was writing it down. Some of the things that you were saying, and because I think a lot of times people think that most of their sales and most of their income is going to come from writing the book, but I think it's quite the opposite, right? Because if you're not like a major New York selling, New York Times seller, people don't really know you, and so unless you're in that category, you're not going to get a whole lot of money from book sales, is what I'm saying. And so I love that you were giving these different ways that a person can make money, starting from the publishing of their books and things like that. So I love that. That is definitely.
You're absolutely right. It's sort of the opposite approach that most people would think, because you brought up the New York Times bestseller list, because there are a lot of authors out there and people who would like to be authors, and their dream is, I want a New York Times bestseller. And they think if the quality of their book is good enough, they can get there. And that does happen. Like also sometimes the local high school quarterback makes the NFL, and it's about the same possibility that happens. But those people who are making the New York Times bestseller list, they are already established in their field in many cases. They are already well known. They've established their social platforms. So when you start out with a book, even if you're a big fish in your little pond, all the things that you do to promote your book are establishing and growing your platform, which will in turn help you sell that book and more books. And I know a lot of authors are introverts, and they don't want to be involved with social media. But the way publishing is going now, you need to be out there. And the nice thing for introverts is some of them do very well on social media because they can plan their posts. It doesn't always have to include pictures of you. And they're getting their message out there. And they're increasing an audience where they don't actually have to interact with people live. So, and then there's always people out there who will do all that for you. You can hire somebody to handle all of your social media, and you never have to touch it. But it is necessary to getting your book sold.
Yeah. And I was going to say the other way that they can become a New York Times bestseller is to hire Maggie as their ghostwriter.
I have one client right now who's absolutely convinced that's going to happen, and I can say, from your lips to God's ears.
There we go. So, what are some ways that? Well, let me ask this question. So, as a ghostwriter, what is the process like? What is it like to ghostwrite a book?
Well, this is it's a close relationship with people in many cases when I ghostwrite their book. Now, occasionally, and I'm hired two ways. Publishers hire me to work with their authors because they've got somebody come on with a really great idea and they're not very strong writers. And so they bring me in to help them. And then I work sometimes directly with authors because all of my work is word of mouth and referral. So in a few cases with authors that come through a publisher, I have met them only once, and I write their entire book. And I insist on meeting everyone at least once because I need to know who they are and what they sound like. So we start there, and in many cases they have all the material ready, they've had recorded conversations, and then they just give me access to everything, and then I go write the book. Now what the more normally happens and more frequently, which I'm happy about, we have that first meeting, and everything is done by Zoom these days. Isn't that wonderful? Because you can see people, and again, we have this initial meeting to make sure we all want to work together and we like each other, because this process, depending on how far along they are, how much work they've already done toward their book, it can be 6 months to 18 months where we're meeting every 2 weeks. So we have this meeting, and I'm literally listening and watching to the way they speak and the words they use, because the idea for me as a ghostwriter is to represent them and speak in their voice, and not to write a book that makes them sound like an English professor, because after all, whoever bought anything from an English professor?
Well, isn't that the truth?
Yes. So we want to make them sound intelligent, and they are, but it needs to be their personality, because that's what keeps the reader interested. Wouldn't you rather read the autobiography of a movie star you like rather than a book about tort law?
Yeah. That is so true. That is so true.
So we start with that meeting, and then the author will forward me anything they've already got together. If they've written notes, and sometimes people have a partial manuscript. One person I work with gave me this long list of contacts, telephone numbers of people he's known over the years that he wants me to go interview. So those kinds of things are sent to me ahead of time. Some people, when we're writing business books for them, they have blogs they've already written that we can resource, all kinds of things like that. They send those to me. Then we meet, start meeting every 2 weeks. The first thing we do is create an outline of how we want this book to go. And we agree upon that. You know, these are the chapters, and this is our introduction, and we're going to move from there. And then each week, I basically interview the author. And even though I write the book, I call them the author because it's all their idea. It's their baby. You know, it's their creation. So we'll do about a chapter a week. We talk about what's going to go in that chapter. And I record that Zoom, and then I get a transcription of that interview. And I go through that as I start to write the chapter for them because I want to use as many of their own words as possible when I create their chapter. And as I'm writing, that's when I go back and do research to back up what we have in the book, because my initial training many years ago was in journalism. And we're all about being factual and being able to support that point with at least 3 credible sources. And that's one of those funny little things that people don't think about. They think we just sit down and start typing. But research is a very big deal. And it's not only things like, you know, we add statistics to their books. I'm working with somebody right now who's talking about in vitro fertilization. So I go, you know, and I'm researching the average age of people and the success rate and things like that. And, you know, in conversation, we'll say, who was it who talked about you need 10,000 hours? Was that Malcolm Gladwell? And I really liked what he said about something. So I go back and I research quotes to add to the book. And so when I finish that chapter, I submit it to the author. We have another meeting. They get to look at that, and then I move on with the next chapter. So it's very well organized, the process we go through.
Yeah, it actually kind of inspired another question, and actually 2 questions. So, what is your favorite genre, and what's the longest project you've ever had, ghostwriting project you've ever had?
Let me see. So far, longest project is about 14 months. And my favorite genre, I'm loving all of them. I've helped people with a couple of marketing books, and those came the quickest to me because I really know that industry. But I think there's one that really, really just touched me, and it was a business book, and it was, and I never give anybody's names because I'm a ghostwriter.
Right, of course,
you know?
Of course.
And, you know, so it's a very discreet service I offer here, but I do talk about them. I just don't give their names. So I was working with a very successful businesswoman, and she was talking about creating role models for women of color in business and breaking through the glass ceiling. And as part of this, she was talking about how her family came to this country, and they came here because of and during the fall of Saigon. And she was talking about how in order to escape the country, they wound up on a barge. You know, her family got separated. Her father and grandparents didn't make it onto the boat. Her mother and the other children were there, and she was a few months old, maybe 18 months, small enough to be carried in the arms. And they were on a barge. They needed to get onto a larger ship to get out of the bay and to safety. And the only way to get her on that ship was to throw her. And her brother, I'm going to cry. I'm going to cry again. Her brother threw her up to people hanging off the side of the ship who were going to catch her and get her on board the ship. Oh, my gosh. See how much this is.
Wow.
You learn about other people. I didn't mean to cry. You learn about other people's experiences, and it just opens your heart up to everything. People go through so much.
Yeah.
And this is why I say everyone has a story to tell.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if it helps just one other person, then it's worth the whole process of writing your book.
Wow. Wow. Oh my gosh. Going through that process helps you even more, because you have to, visualize it and picture it and, all those things. So you probably go through a lot of emotions too, when you're.
I do.
Yeah.
Mostly I can stay emotionally separated from things, but this woman, and she was just so charming and lovely to work with, but one of the reasons I find this work is a gift is because it really exercises your compassion muscle and your empathy muscle. I work with a number of marketing agencies and things like that, and I'm seeing the trend now is that these are our missions and value statements, and we are going to work with people who have the same mission and values we do, because this is very important. And I understand where they're coming from. And basically they're saying, we only want to work with people like us. Mm-hmm. And, if they feel like we're saving the environment and, we're doing this, their reasons are very noble. Well, I have had people approach me who were very, very different than me. And I haven't necessarily believed in their mission and values. Mm-hmm. And I decided to take the work on anyway. And this is what has happened. These people who are very different from me, whether religiously or politically or perhaps their business views, I have come to care for each of them very much because in the process of working with them, I'm not seeing their differences. I'm seeing our similarities, and I'm seeing where their heart is in the right place and their intentions are good. And these are good people who I might otherwise reject out of hand because we're not the same. And if I followed, this trend now, we only want to work with people who have our mission and values, and I'm just coming to love these people. I fall in love with all my clients. I do. I just really begin to believe in them, and I want to help them. And I have just been so touched by this turnaround. One of these clients, the publisher even came to me, admitted, none of our other writers want to work with this person. And I said, well, let's find out what this is all about. Let me see. I like a challenge.
Like I said, at the beginning of the show, I've never interviewed anyone that was a ghostwriter. And so it sounds like, it can be very intense and as well as fulfilling, because it touches a lot of areas, in terms of emotionally and things like that. But I tell you, I have so much compassion and so much respect, actually, for writers. I've never really considered myself a writer, but I knew that... Well,
it's about time. You need to. You are a writer.
Well, I've written a couple of books. However... That's
just a couple of books, she said.
Yeah. I honestly do not consider myself a writer, because as I am interviewing, and plus, I don't know if I mentioned that to you or not, but my husband is a writer. He writes scripts. And when I watch him in his process, and as I interview other authors and, talk to other people, it's like, no, that's not me. Now, what I love is what I'm doing right now. I love interviewing. I love audio. I love this part of the process. And so I guess in that respect, that, I'm in my lane. And so I love what I'm doing, in this genre. And that's a little bit of writing. I mean, it requires that I know what I'm talking about, and I know how to interview, and I get better and better, and I work at it. But this is really, really my genre that I really love to interview, and I love podcasting. And so, yeah. Anyway, this is not about me, but
well, it takes a special skill to be an interviewer. And it takes someone who really listens, first of all, to what their interviewee is saying, because you have to pivot constantly during the conversation. Yeah. And you really need to care. That's what makes a good interviewer, that you're not just pushing through your list of questions. You go, oh, wait a minute, you brought that up, and that reminds me of this other thing. And I just applaud what you're doing with the focus of this podcast. Of course, I've told several of my friends, guess what? I'm going to be on Aldreama's podcast. And she's focused on these silver and women entrepreneurs and mature people. And yes, absolutely. We are just not going to be ignored.
That's
and when we are, we're going to use that as our superpower, because you just go ahead and underestimate me.
I love it.
That works out.
I love it. I love it. Well, I've got some more questions that I want to ask. And because I know, the community that's going to be listening to these podcasts, some of them, we're right now, we're going through this great resignation. And so there's a lot of women, people, not just women, but people who are going through trying to make certain choices and pivoting in terms of their careers and doing things that's more fulfilling and things like that. And so that's what kind of inspired this whole, podcast movement that I wanted to kind of journey on. And so it's really designed to help inspire those that's trying to make a decision, that's trying to pivot, that's trying to do something that's more fulfilling in our age group, and that where they can become more appreciative of the experience and the wisdom and what they've already contributed, to the marketplace, and use those skills. And so that's what this is all about, helping them, to be inspired by the ideas and things that they hear on this podcast. And so that was the reason that I really wanted to embark upon this journey, and I have, myself, I'm 62 years old, so I'm definitely a silver and mature womanpreneur. So I'm speaking to myself, because these podcasts and these interviews, they inspire me. And so I know that they're going to inspire, some others as well. But anyway, I digress, because I want them to know.
It's wonderful, because I can't help myself. I am a cheerleader, and that's part of why I do this. And I've worked with a lot of female authors and female business people over the years. And absolutely, while you were talking about that, it made me think of something. Because so many of us overlook the skills we have because we're used to them. But it made me think of, have you ever heard that term, shopping your own closet, which means you're going to go in your closet and dig in the back and go, ooh, I forgot I had that red dress. Let me get this out. Look, I can fit in that again. And it's like having brand new clothes. Women can do this with their careers as well. When you sit down and you go through your resume or you update your LinkedIn, and especially, don't do this by yourself. Get a friend and do it, somebody else in the business, work with someone else, or hire a resume writer or something. when you start talking about what you've done during your career, and we talked about mine being many decades, and you didn't make me feel old.
Good.
It's true, because, we should be thinking about that. I mean, how long do we feel like we're neophytes in our business?
Absolutely.
Up until the day we go, oh, I can't get hired because I'm too experienced.
Mm-hmm.
It happens that quickly. It's like, do I have enough experience for this job or for this contract? And that it seems like the next week you realize they don't want to pay me what I'm worth because I've been doing it for 20 years.
That's right.
So take all those, and for many of your listeners, it's going to be decades. And also for many people, you might have had 3 or 4 careers in those decades. And every bit of it can be used to start something new or to focus on that thing you really love the most.
Yeah.
And then it changes your whole life when you love what you do. In some of the research I did in the last few months, I came across this startling statistic. It was something like 80% of people just can't stand their jobs. 80%.
That's a lot.
Now, let's leave a margin for error, like 10%. Suppose it's only 70%. That's a lot of people who don't like getting up, going to work in the morning. And I know my career has just changed so many times, and you have to keep plugging. I was doing things, or using equipment or performing functions that became obsolete, and you just have to learn a new skill and keep going because you still have bills and you have kids and you have things you need to take care of. So your listeners have so many skills that they can turn into something new and more enjoyable if they just go shop their closet.
Oh, I so love that. That is, oh my gosh, that is so powerful because, it just really kind of summarizes exactly, what this whole podcast and the series is about, is about shopping your own closet. And so, absolutely.
Well, I applaud you because we need this.
Yeah.
We need this. I mean, we are literally getting overlooked.
Yep.
I was at a birthday event that was at a club, and there was a bar, and I walked up to try to order my one big cocktail of the night. I'm such a big drinker. I decided, I'll get one cocktail. And I stood there while all these other people get waited on first. Now, I'm not really very tall. So I sort of credit it to, they can't see me over here. And I'm watching, the young guys, and you would expect them to wait on the pretty girls first. I mean, that happens. After a while, it's like, let me get out my credit card and wave it at you because they might be pretty, but I have a higher credit limit. Give me my drink.
There you go.
I can spend more. You should be focusing on me. And I laughed. Actually, the host of the party had to come over and order my drink for me. Wow. And I just looked at that as a metaphor because we hear so many women talk about, I'm ignored now. People literally don't see me. And we can use that to our advantage.
Absolutely.
We definitely can.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be the rest of our life. It's just we've got too much to offer. And plus, we're all now working with each other. So many more women-focused business groups, and we're creating our own network.
That's right.
Who are we going to go to first? That woman I met doing business.
That's
because I've gotten to know her now, and I want to work with her because I like her ethic, and I've met other clients who've worked with her. So we're developing our own networks.
You're absolutely right. So
keep going.
I know, right? Right?
You have to cut me off. I just love this topic.
Well, I didn't want to because it was so good. It was so good. So.
Well, I just want to applaud you for focusing on this group. We really appreciate it. We got years to go yet. Let me tell you, the lifespan is longer and longer, and we do not want to die of boredom.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. So then, what are six things to know before writing a book, whether you are writing it yourself or if you're collaborating? What are some things that you must know?
Well, the first one probably sounds a little silly to people, and that would be choose your topic. Mm-hmm. And because a lot of people say, I just know I have a book in me. I'd love to write a book. And for instance, if you're the CEO of a company and you're getting ready for retirement, you might decide, you know what, I've been in business for 40 years. I have got a lot I can share with people. I've got some interesting stories. Well, recording everything that you've done over a 40-year career could take another 4 decades to write. Yeah. And it's a very broad topic.
Yeah.
But what you can do is focus on one area that differentiates you from other people in your business. For instance, were you the first woman in aeronautical instrument sales? Or did you hide the fact that you had dyslexia and you overcame that to be very successful? Did you specialize in turning prisoners into entrepreneurs? There's one very particular aspect of your experience. And not only does that make your book more readable, it makes it more sellable, because the more we can niche down, people talk about, everybody will want to read my book. Nope. Niche it down. Is it, women 40 to 60? Is it people who've worked in the music industry? Is it young parents? That's what increases your book sale. So choosing your topic is the first one. The second thing we touched on a little bit earlier about create an outline. A lot of people think I have to sit down and write this book from page 1 to page 5,623. Nope. Go back to high school, create an outline, because I look at that as like, I look at the book like a Mardi Gras float, that underneath that fancy float, there's a frame, and your outline is the frame. And then you build on it. You add the paper mache, and you put wheels on it, and you put flowers, and you paint it, and sprinkles and everything. But you have to start with that frame, and that's what your outline is. And then do your research. Because it will actually speed up your writing process. Because as you're writing your book, let's say, you want to write that marketing book. Well, you need to put some statistics in there, because that adds to your credibility and it helps people understand what you're talking about. So do that research ahead of time. If you're in the medical field and you're talking about a particular disease, you might want to research, the first physician to diagnose that, and you want to research recovery rates. So you do that. You can not only do your online research, you can visit specialty museums, like museums for period clothing or manufacturing museums. There's a spy museum up in Washington. All those things are part of your research. Then you can start writing. And, we could spend days talking about the writing process, but a lot of people try to edit as they write and make every paragraph and every chapter perfect before they move on.
That's me.
No. Can you just, I'm shaking my finger at you.
I know.
Just start writing it down, and you will have plenty of time to go back and edit. And one of the things I tell people to do, and I do this myself, I keep a little book with me all the time, and I keep it in the little pocket of the door of my car. Now, I do not write while I'm driving. I can barely drive while I'm driving. I don't text while I'm driving. I do admit I have made notes at a particularly long traffic light. But, when you get this great idea, people get ideas in the shower or while they're driving or sitting at the movies. So however you like to keep notes, on your phone or record them, as soon as you have an idea for your book, write it down. And then when you get back to your computer, you have create a file, like here are all my notes. And, maybe this is like a character I want to write about, or there's this particular thing that happened in 1963 that I want to add to my book. So that's part of your writing process. And then there's the editing process. That's the next step. And people will be surprised that a lot of times there's more writing that gets done during the editing process than the initial writing process. Books get twice as long.
Wow. Yeah.
And then finally, part of the book writing process is the marketing and publishing, that you need to be thinking about that. You can never start thinking about it too soon, from day one. And there's so many ways to publish now, and I just love the fact that publishing is opened up to everybody. No longer do you have to find an agent and spend hundreds of dollars in postage to mail off entire books just to be rejected. So marketing and publishing, we talked a little bit earlier about you need to have a social media presence. People need to know who you are. And you can put up posts like, okay, I'm doing it. I've decided I'm going to write this book. This is day one. And all the way through, hey, I'm working with an illustrator now for my cover. What do you all think? Like, here are my 3 options. And you get people involved. So when it's time to sell your book, they're already used to the idea that Aldreama's got another book coming out. I can't wait to see this one.
Yeah.
So your pre-sales, can you tell that marketing background of mine is coming in?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. I have so many questions. I want to bring you back on for another interview.
Goodness,
I do, because we have not gotten, the questions and the value and what you're bringing, is just so awesome and so amazing that I want to have you back on the show. I actually have another interview in about 15 minutes, but
well, hang up on me.
But I know that
talk again.
I know because I want to bring you back on the show. But before we end this podcast, I want to know, what's the best way you want people to reach you? We're going to have show notes and things like that and the information that, that you've already provided. But what's the best way you want people to reach you, to find out, things you've got going on and that's coming up and things like that? What's the best way?
Oh, you think I promote myself? Are you kidding? I don't know what's happening 2 hours from now or next week. But you ask me about what my client's doing 6 months from now, I have a detailed list. Maybe I have some rough idea that I better get to the grocery store if I want to eat this weekend.
Well, I know. Now, because didn't you say you had a freebie or something? So wasn't there?
I do. You know what? I'm going to give you my email address.
All right.
I'm happy to share this writing guide with people. And my email is, I'll say it first and I'll spell it, is Maggie@MaggieMills.com, Maggie@MaggieMills.com. And reach out if you have any questions. I just love chatting with people, can you tell? And I'll send this little writer's guide to you, and I encourage everybody, if you think you have a book in you, then you do. If the thought has ever crossed your mind, give it a try, because everybody has a story to tell.
Oh, man. I love it. I love it. Well, Maggie, on that note, we are going to, I don't want to say end the podcast, but because you're going to have to come back, like I said. So we're going to come back and finish, well, actually, it's never finished. I don't know what I'm saying here. So because the thing that I wanted this to do is just to be conversational. And I love having conversations with you because that's how we met. It's like going back to the initial time that we met. We were like kids in a classroom. And so that's why. So anyway,
and I'd like you to know, I'm still in touch with that speaker, and apparently we did not interrupt her talk too much.
Okay.
She's still talking to me. She didn't scold me afterwards. Like, you two, get in the back. Get out.
Well, that's good. That is good. Well, listen, Maggie, we're going to have you back on the show. I'll be in contact with you in terms of when we schedule the next interview. Yeah, for real.
Imagine what we're going to talk about next time. We're going to have a ball.
I know. And so, but thank you so much for all that you've shared. And again, I can't wait to have you back on the show. I'm really looking forward to it. And I just really appreciate it.
For having me, and thank you for what you're doing. I can't wait to tell everybody. Listen, we women have a voice now, thanks to Aldreama.
There you go.
All right, bye-bye, dear. You've got to get to your next call. You just hang up on me now. I'm hanging up. Goodbye.
Okay, I'll talk to you later. Thanks so much.
Hi, this is Aldreama Harper, and thank you for listening to the podcast. I hope you got value for where you are in your entrepreneurial endeavor. And if you'd like to know more about how I can further serve you, simply go to CoachDreama.com. Again, that's CoachDreama.com. I look forward to hearing from you. Have an amazing day.